All right, guys, welcome to the House of Tech, where each week we are going to show you how to delve into developing our skills with computers, operating systems, and a whole bunch of other nerdy stuff. So this week we are going to be talking about Linux, and we're going to be talking about how to install Linux onto a computer, just helping you through the process. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So first off, to get started, as you can see, because I was trying to capture the screen and everything like that, I actually have a fully operational Windows operating system here that we're using. However, what we're doing here is we have a program called VMware Workstation. It's acting as what's called a VM, or a virtual machine. We're going to be creating basically a computer that's being run on another computer, if that makes sense. We're going to create a digital version of all the hardware. It's going to mock up all the hardware and allow us to install a full operating system right here within this window, and that's going to enable us to screen capture and show you guys exactly what we're doing today. So for all intents and purposes, just assume that what we're seeing here is pretty much what you're going to see on a computer. Okay? So to start off, you can see that this computer that I've built here has about 9 gigabytes of RAM. It's going to have 2 processors, about 40 gigabytes of hard drive space. Now, I just allocated that because I felt like it was going to be the most efficient for today. By no means do you need a whole 9 gigabytes of RAM to be running Linux. In fact, most Linux distributions will run very, very small. And there are some distributions that are going to run even smaller than your standard ones, like the one I'm going to be using today. So don't feel like you need this much power. I'm just setting it aside because I have the power to spare. Fantastic. Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is pretty simple. I've actually done it a second ago, but I will show you guys what I'm doing. I've taken a file that is basically a CD that has the Linux operating system on it, and I've placed it within my my virtual machine has a CD drive basically, and we just put that file in there. So if you're doing this at home, you're doing this on a physical machine, really all we're talking about so far is take that CD, place it into the CD tray, and close it. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start up our computer. Okay? So I'm going to make this full screen so that what you guys see is pretty much what you would see with an actual computer booting up. So here we have our BIOS and boot starting up. And now we're at the operating system asking us some basic questions. So this is going to be pretty much the same no matter what you're installing. The same thing would also happen if you were using Windows and you wanted to install, let's say, Windows 10. You would put some form of media, whether it's a flash drive or a CD or a DVD, into the tray, plug it into the computer, however you're interfacing with it, great. And then it would have the opportunity to boot up into what's basically an installation program. Okay? All right, it looks like it's finally starting up. So here we go. We're just going to click Install Ubuntu. You could also run it directly off this CD if you wanted to. You could just click Try Ubuntu. But we're just going to go ahead and install it. Make sure the correct language is selected. All right. Now, a lot of people might not be familiar with this. There are a whole bunch of different ways that keyboards have been set up depending on which country you are living in or where you purchased your keyboard. So I just want to do a quick test. Yep, it looks like mine is running English. Fantastic, and it's doing the US edition of English. If you needed to, you could always switch it to one of the other versions so that you were in the correct keyboard configuration. You're going to go ahead and just click Continue. I just want to do a normal installation. You could also do a minimal installation. This is going to take away a lot of the programs that are automatically installed with it, but I want to have those because let's say I want to be working on some Word documents or maybe playing some music or something, so I'm going to have a normal installation that has all this stuff. Minimal, it's just going to have what you absolutely need, what's absolutely necessary. You're going to have a web browser, you're going to have maybe a text editor, and it's just going to try to keep it as small as possible. There are some other options. I'm going to stick with these for right now. So let's go normal installation. I want to erase that disk and install Ubuntu. There's nothing on it right now. In fact, that hard drive doesn't even really exist for me. You might be in a situation where you would like to resize partitions or have a dual boot situation where you might click something else. Maybe you're in a situation where you wouldn't be the only person using the computer, or you were worried about security, and so you might want to encrypt when you set up for the first time. I'm just going to do my standard erase disk and install Ubuntu because I don't really need this virtual machine to be super secure. I'm just using it for the sake of these tutorials. Alright, so a lot of this kind of information is going to pop up. It might be kind of intimidating and confusing until you start getting into formatting disks and partitions and those kind of things. For right now, all we need to do is click continue. This kind of information is just kind of giving me some information as to how it's being formatted and where it's being formatted and how many partitions there are and which types of formats are being used and how it's going to interface to the computer. I'm not super worried about it right now. I'm just going to go with the standard. This is just going to ask us which time zone we're in. I'm going to leave it as New York. Obviously, if you were living over here or over here, you could pretty much just click as to where you're living roughly, and it'll give you that time zone, or you can kind of take it from there. So I'm just going to leave it at that standard and continue. Alright, so it's going to ask for my name, my computer's name, and a username. So my name's just going to kind of show up on the splash screen. So my name is Bit. I'm going to make this our Linux box. Alright, my username, let's make it Bit123, just so that you guys can kind of see where those different names versus usernames are going to be different. And then our standard password here on House of Tech is going to be the most secure password in the entire world. It's going to be password. And I'm going to put a 1 at the end of it. So it's going to be PASSWORD 1. That's just so we can always remember it. All right. And I said require my password on login. You could also have it log in automatically. What's going to start now is just a process of copying these files off of the disk and arranging them properly on your hard drive. I'm going to step away for a moment because I know this will take a long time. If you are following along, what you're probably going to want to do is pause this video, step away for a moment, make yourself a burrito, whatever it is that you do for your little creature comfort, and this should be ticking along very soon. So as you can see, the installation has finished up. We now have the Linux operating system Ubuntu sitting here on this computer. It's asking me to do a quick restart. What I'm going to first do is I'm going to take that CD out of the disk tray. Now remember, with our little VM, it works a little bit differently. We're just going to go into our settings, and I'm going to remove the file. Let's see, I can use the physical, and then it'll work just fine. Okay. That's going to be fine. All right, now we're just going to restart. All right, guys, so I did actually make a quick error when I removed that CD. So I put it back into the CD tray, turned the machine back on, and now everything's running along just great. We will be prompted on when to take that CD out. All right, and now as we can see, there's me, Bit, the owner of the computer. Now if I click on that, it'll open up and say, hey, what is our password? We're going to use our super secure password, password 1. We're going to go ahead and click sign in, and soon it will load up our operating system. All right, and there we have it. So you can see plugged in, and they actually put it right onto your desktop for you, but plugged into our DVD drive is that Ubuntu. So this is just going to show you some basic information about Ubuntu. I'm going to actually select that I don't want to send system info in order to improve Ubuntu. The reason I'm doing that is because we are just making tutorials right now. Basically, this is just asking for your permission. If you were to have some kind of an error, that would help them to develop the operating system, to have more information about that error. So that is why they're going to ask for those kinds of things. And let's see, it looks like it's hanging up a little bit. Obviously, they give you the option to install any of the kinds of programs that maybe you use on a regular basis. I'm just going to say that I'm done because we're going to talk about installation as itself. And also, you notice that DVD is no longer here, so I can't click on it. To give you guys a little bit of a rundown before we get too far, I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger. And the reason why I'm doing that is because this size of this window should normally on regular computers try to use up as much of that screen as possible. Because I am on a VM, it has just kind of given it this small window that we've been working on this whole time, and I want to go ahead and change and modify that. So let's see. I have a feeling that this is going to be a pretty good start for us. Let's see. There we go. All right, so I'll keep those changes. Looks good to me. And then there's some update notes if you wanted to take a look. There's software that has been updated since then. I'm actually going to say no, I don't want to do it because we're going to show you guys how to do that manually later. That way, after you've used a computer for a while, let's say you use it for a month or two and they release one and you don't have a chance to install it immediately, you'll know how to do that. So to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown, over here on this left-hand side with our standard GUI, that means graphic user interface, and that's this window and the ability to use our mouse and all of these kinds of graphic buttons to click on. We are going to have all of our basic programs that are pinned to what's basically a taskbar. This is going to be the button that you would click on in order to pull up all of the different stuff that's installed. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab... Where is my terminal? There's my terminal. All right, I'm going to grab my terminal. I'm going to put it right there because we're going to be using this a lot for these tutorials and in general to be using the operating system itself. So that is everything you're going to need to get started. That pretty much covers this week's topic. Next week we are going to talk about how to use the really basic terminal, which is going to help you to do a lot of the intense stuff that you'd like to try to do using Linux. And even just some of your basic stuff with maybe an operating system that's not quite as fleshed out as Ubuntu is. Ubuntu is really great at developing the things that you will need in order to have ease of use, but not all Linux distros are going to be this easy. So we are going to be spending a lot of time in the terminal teaching you guys how to run that so that you can use your commands and command line interactions. If there's a topic that you guys would like to have us cover, go ahead. In the bottom of today's video, leave a comment. I do try to answer each comment, so if you have any questions, you want to talk about today's topics, fantastic. I'd like to get into more detail with you guys. If you guys did enjoy the episode, great. Give us a like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.